Welcome to the Filmistines, the double-featured podcast. Join us as we unravel the interwoven experience of the continuous conversation of cinema. Take part in pairing movies with their cursed counterparts, movies that share DNA, or even pairing questionable duos by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level, where the $5 tier will grant the ability to request films to further the discussion. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready to join the 100-year conversation. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you guys for joining us today. I am joined by a stranger today, Lucy.
Hello, everyone. Not a stranger.
You can join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for brand new episodes of the Filmistines. Some recent episodes include 2024's Mean Girls, Ferrari, Poor Things, our 2024 Academy Award predictions, if you want to see if we were right, and Richard Jewell, Lucy's favorite movie. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas over on our Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. Go subscribe for $1, request a movie, write in for each episode.
Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at hempvillecbd.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
But today we are discussing Andrew Haigh's 2023 film, All of Us Strangers. And I know you like this film a lot, but I've been beating it around in my head a little bit. And I was a little higher on this movie while watching it, but after some time with it, I think I'm not feeling much for this movie. I think it's a little sloppy. I like some of these ideas around how trauma tethers you to a place. I think that's the clear inspiration from the source material, this Japanese idea, and is probably shared across other countries and cultures, but these things kind of holding you back from moving on in the afterlife. But I'm curious how you feel about this movie, man.
Let me start off by saying that I did not like this movie a lot. I did want to like it more than I actually did, though, and that's surprising to hear that you were actually into the movie while watching it, because I was not. Maybe it was, I don't know, the day of the week, the time of the day. Maybe I didn't feel like watching this type of movie at that moment, because sometimes you don't want to watch a movie that's all Debbie Downer, you know? So I don't know. Maybe it was a combination of things, but I just wasn't into it. I'm there with you. I kind of feel like it was too much of something and it wasn't expressed very concisely. You know, you throw in death and grief, you already have a pretty good theme for a movie, but then now you're throwing in loneliness and being gay and ghosts and a little bit of supernatural elements that I don't know if they're supposed to be there or not. I mean, it was a little bit all over, and I was a little bit confused, and I was also a bit confused on its messaging. Were you trying to tell me that love conquers all? If he would have just learned to love, I don't know, something would have happened, or what, the power of writing. I don't know. It was a lot. Couldn't find a clear message. I felt like I was trying to catch up with everything new that was thrown at me.
Yeah, I pretty much agree entirely. Well, I think, and first of all, our main character, Adam, that's his name?
Yeah.
He's dead in the very beginning. He dies before the movie starts, or at the right at the very beginning. It's kind of, I think, implied that he's in the process of transitioning into like the afterlife, heaven, hell, whatever kind of thing. And so he's in that process, but he's prevented by his traumas and sadness that keeps him here, tethered to maybe the specific apartment. Maybe the apartment is the institution in which dead people go through to move on. And I think when you start to identify that launching point, especially for me, I guess, things start to make sense a little bit more, because at first glance it's kind of just an experiential movie. There's not a lot of point other than connecting finding that connection.
Well, I'm sure you'll find a connection with everything that was thrown here at you.
Yeah, that's probably true. But as far as the specific tethers, it feels like there's this element within Adam that he wasn't able to make that script, that book, whatever he was trying to do. He couldn't make it happen before he died, and so it was kind of keeping him in place, or so he thought. And then what was maybe really keeping him here, it was his inability to connect with anyone. And then he met another passenger that allowed him to connect and kind of help each other move on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And that was one of my biggest questions after watching this movie. Were they all dead? That was the thing. They were all dead. And there's bits and pieces that clue you in that they are, especially the end when you find out that Harry's dead too. And you're like, oh, well, I guess Adam must be dead. If everyone in this world is dead, what makes him so special? And then there were like hints where he's got that fever, and the fire alarm in the beginning kind of made me think, like, did he die in a fire? I don't know. But it still didn't click to me on everything that went on here. But with you saying that they were kind of there to help each other move on through the process, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was the fire alarm or he actually died of AIDS or HIV or whatever, because he brought that up to Harry about having sex with a man. Won't that maybe kill you? Thought that there might be something to that. But I don't think they give enough to us one way or the other to make it super clear, other than that he is dead.
Yeah.
Because the others are explicitly dead, at least at some point. Harry,
Yeah, we sort of see him.
Yeah. And the parents, obviously. But there is, at least in retrospect, that explicit acknowledgement of, oh, can't you die from that? Coming from Adam. So maybe kind of think, oh, okay, so maybe that, but it's kind of irrelevant how he died.
Yeah, I agree. And there was a section where, like, he felt like he was in pain. There were some scenes where he expressed, I don't know, his chest or something was in pain. I don't remember, but there were also a lot of fire visuals, but those could have just been to contrast some of the loneliness felt. So I don't know. I mean, but like you said, it doesn't really matter how he died, just that you recognize that he is dead.
And with that, we get some of the coolest sections of the movie. Really, probably the only cool sections of the movie is with his parents, where we have these almost like shower thought kind of conversations within himself, where he reenacts what he thinks his parents would do and say in certain conversations and situations. And it starts to open this door where I'm like, okay, you're kind of manifesting and fabricating some resolution with your parents that you didn't really get to experience too much time with, because they died when he was like 11 or 12, right? And I think that was obviously kind of what his screenplay novel was about, right? And what maybe could have been and what should have been for him. But we didn't really get any answers or anything meaningful out of it other than him kind of realizing that he is dead. I feel like there wasn't a lot of connective tissue with trying to make him connect with everybody. Like, he literally connects with Adam.
With Harry.
Yeah, with Harry. They hook up. He falls in love. So we're good there, but that's really not the focus of the movie. I feel like we were kind of hung up with the parents, and it's the better part of the movie. So I wish we could have fleshed that out maybe a little bit more. Because on the other side of that, when Adam's talking to Harry about his parents, it's so, I don't really know how to put it. It's lame. It feels like Harry's just a slut and he's trying to hook up, I guess. I'm not getting the emotional connection between the two. And it doesn't help that Adam is kind of divorced from their reality because he's so stuck in his head. So it's just a kind of frustrating, complicated mix of perspectives from different characters that just kind of makes it incoherent. You feel me?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I actually disagree with you. My favorite parts were Harry and Adam and not the parents. The parent bits kind of bored me. I don't know, it just felt like the conversations were a little forced, especially that conversation the mom and Adam have in the kitchen. And that whole scene just felt off to me. I don't know, maybe her reaction just wasn't what I was expecting based off of other things. And then I was a bit lost in, okay, we obviously know the parents are dead. Do the parents know that Adam is dying? I was just a bit confused on that. And then if they knew that, are they helping him transition into the afterlife, or he's helping them, they're helping each other? I don't know. It just a little bit lost there on that. Especially how she reacted at the end after Adam tells her that he's gay and doesn't have a girlfriend, blah blah blah, and she just like, well, I don't want to drink this coffee anymore. I'm like, what? Oh, that just felt off to me. I don't know. And then we have that scene later on with the dad when the mom wasn't there, and they have their little one-on-one and they're listening to music. I don't know. It just didn't feel that heartwarming connection that I wanted to feel.
No, I totally get that, actually, and I justify that in my head with this coming from his imagination and him trying to fabricate what he thinks he wants out of these conversations that he never had with them. And so they need to be a little bizarre in how they're told, because they're not the real conversations that happen. There's nothing natural about them. He's writing both sides for something that never happened, that he wished would have happened, just so he probably could have had his parents for a longer time, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's probably why they didn't feel very soothing. Like, parents would try to soothe you like that. Yeah, like the shower thoughts thing you said. He's making up these almost harsh conversations in his head with his parents.
It's kind of funny. So we ultimately have like this schizophrenic ghost who is convinced that these visions are real in his ghostly world.
Oh my gosh.
So he brings Harry to the actual like ghostly place, and it turns out that his parents aren't there because they were never there. They're always in his head. They were always in his ghost mind.
But Harry saw them.
Yeah, I think Harry saw them because you can actually kind of manifest your thoughts in this ghostly world, because it's another world. It's not Earth. And I don't know if I can actually believe Harry anyways, because he's just trying to connect with Adam one way or another.
Well, we see Harry's reflection when he sees the mom and dad through the door, and he like gets scared and backs away and then runs away.
Was that them?
Yes.
Okay. I
think. Well, because at that point I was thinking, oh, this is a movie about ghosts, and we can see them, and Harry can see them. Everyone can see them. Okay, all right. I'll go along with that thought process. Because at that point, I hadn't quite yet figured out that Adam was dead. I had suspicions that either Harry was dead or was going to die. You know, something was obviously going to happen with Harry. But I hadn't quite figured it out yet. So at that point where he saw the parents, I was like, all right, this is now like a supernatural movie. Cool. I'll follow. But it wasn't. Sort of.
Yeah, and it wasn't because it was sort of a cerebral movie at the same time.
Yes.
Which is fun. It's fun storytelling. It just doesn't totally land with me. Yeah, and when we see Harry dead with his bottle, I'm like, oh, Adam's been dead the whole time, kind of thing. And oh, this is like a processing institution for going one way or the other in the afterlife kind of thing.
That's funny because I didn't go there immediately. I was like, poor Adam, what's he gonna do with all these people dying around him? Because
also there is like no one in the apartment. You know, it's very vacant and very ghostly and stuff.
Yeah, you're just, a little bit. You're like 5 minutes smarter than me. I didn't realize it till 5 minutes later. I was like, oh, I see.
But I don't know, because I can maybe see. I don't know. There's probably many ways to look at this. I can't get away from the fact that Adam's already dead, though. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, almost like you'd have to rewatch this.
Yeah.
With that in mind and see it from a different lens. Because I really it really didn't click with me until the very, very end. And by that time, with how confused I was, I had already forgotten the movie. It's like, it requires a second watch almost. I thought this was going to be a bit more romantic based on you and Wiki telling me that it was a romantic film. So I had my romance cap on, you know. I was ready for the romance here. And there was a bit of romance, but completely not what I was expecting. And typically in romance movies, they're so easy for me. They're very guilty pleasure movies for me. You're probably going to make me cry in a romance movie from either just pure happiness of people loving or sadness from people breaking up or someone losing somebody, you know? And I thought that's where we were kind of heading here with Harry. And it just caught me by surprise that I didn't even have a chance to let my emotions out. Because once I found out Harry was dead, I thought, okay, here's the waterworks. Here's where I'm going to cry. But then it turned into, oh, he's already been dead. And I'm like, okay, is that sadder? Is that worse? I don't know how I'm feeling here. Then it turns out Adam was dead. Then it was like, oh, now I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to take this. It was almost like calling this a romance in my head, at least, with my romance cliches and stuff, didn't hit.
No, I mean, I totally get that. I thought this movie was going to be a little bit more of a romance movie where Harry helps Adam overcome his trauma from his parents' death. But when you realize, oh, his parents died when he was 12 and he's, what, late 30s, 40 years old?
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, okay, it's kind of bizarre to be hung up on that where you can't function in the world. But for your spirit to be hung up on it where you can't move on because you missed out on all these experiences with them, your parents, changes the flavor of the movie. And so it was totally something unexpected for me too. Don't worry. I was like, oh, okay. This is bizarre. Is this an A24 movie? No, it's not. It's a Searchlight movie, actually, or distributed. I also like this little echo throughout the film of strangers, and the movie being called All of Us Strangers, and it just highlighting those people and families and cultures and stuff who live on the fringe of, or so they feel anyways, of who they are, where they are, and who they love and stuff. And it just kind of painting the sad picture of loneliness, you know?
No, I definitely agree with that. I think that's the most powerful thing in this movie, especially when we realize Harry is dead. He says, why am I still there? Why haven't my parents been contacted? Why doesn't my brother and sister know? Why am I like still lying dead on the floor? No one's been told anything? That was probably the saddest part for me.
I almost wish that was a little more of the focus of the movie. And it is and isn't, I guess, at the same time, because there is this stranger element between Adam and his parents, right? But there's also this element where they see him as that 12-year-old still, right? He's in his PJs, he sleeps between them, Christmas, yada, 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 which those are the last memories he has with his parents, so that's kind of how it's manifesting. But it doesn't really challenge the, oh, I'm a stranger to my parents. They don't really know who I really am and stuff, because they're shower thoughts. They're those artificial conversations you're having with these people who were never there to have that conversation with in the first place.
Yeah, because there's that scene between Adam and his dad where basically Adam's dad tells him, yeah, you were crying all the time. And Adam says, well, why didn't you ever come talk to me about why I was crying? And then the dad was like, well, why didn't you tell us you were being bullied? And there's something very powerful there too, because we all do that, especially as kids. We expect someone to come to us, to come take care of us. But as parents, I don't know, you're just letting your kid be a kid, or you're letting them learn life's hard lessons by themselves. I don't know. There's probably plenty of reasons why you wouldn't approach your kid like that. And not out of maliciousness or anything like that, but just out of, you need to build your own person. But in Adam's head, it was like, I needed you to come help me.
And it's a funny thing, because you want to say maybe as a parent that you can tell when your kid's off, or if you're looking at a parent and kids, like obviously you should be able to tell your kids are off. But a kid or someone feeling like a stranger is something else completely. Because the bullying all of a sudden starts to maybe look like just not being invited, you know, not being called on during class kind of thing. Like these things that where you start to not feel included in things that are just happenstance start to push you on the fringe more and more. And then how do you, as a parent maybe, or even a friend, how do you notice that as anything other than just, them being a little bit depressed for X, Y, and Z? And
they're having an off day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of resonated here with Harry. Harry died, I think. I don't know. I'm still confused. But supposedly Harry died that same night when he knocked on Adam's door because the bottle was full at one point, then it was empty, and he was wearing the same thing. He was wearing the same outfit. And then Harry says, like, why didn't you talk to me? Or something like that.
Well, I think he died even before that, and then that was just this reach out for him, this lonely spirit.
Okay.
And we kind of just went from there.
Okay, yeah. But I guess more my point is, no matter when he died, he was still trying to reach out.
Yeah.
And Adam just basically said, oh, no, man, I'm good. But here, Harry was, struggling.
Because I can imagine this situation in this kind of world where the longer you are like trapped in this other world, the more you repeat that scenario of your death. He went to someone's apartment. He went to his friend's apartment to connect, and it didn't happen. And some time goes by in your ghostly world, and then you wake up as a ghost, and those days repeat in some way or another, and sometimes with other ghostly figures who are left behind or trapped behind.
To change subjects a little bit, I thought the performances here were great. I really liked Harry. I think Harry was my favorite character in both as he was written and performance-wise. But I wasn't too sure about the mom.
Yeah, I like our two main characters a lot. I think they're both very good. Andrew Scott looks a little bit like Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, he does.
Like his cousin or something. I don't know. But Paul Mescal is really great. He's in a really great movie called After Sun. He plays that trauma-driven sad boy really well. I like him a lot. Yeah, the parents were bizarre, but I can't get past that it's this kind of artificial representation of them, through Adam's memories and wants. So they almost come across like something you'd see in a David Lynch production, just like weird cadences. Not saying they're Lynchian, but just a weird vibe to them. So they sell for me.
All right.
They're not great or anything, don't get me wrong. I mean, Paul Mescal here is obviously the star. We need him in more stuff.
One of the things that really stood out to me in this film was the editing, but most specifically the transitions. I thought there were some really neat transitions here. There were some in the club scene when he was, I don't know, high on ketamine, if that's the appropriate way to say that were really cool. Really cool. I think there was some really cool use of lighting here that helped with those transitions. There were some that kind of faded in and out, a little kind of 90s, but maybe that went with the vibe here because the parents were, probably from that era. I don't know when they died, but probably around that time based off the music choices and the house and maybe what they were wearing, what they had. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's one reason I kind of mentioned A24, because it's got this, what is the apex of A24 colors and vibes? Probably Euphoria. It's just peak that. It's really beautiful, and it's one of those things that if you're into, you gotta be a little careful because you start to maybe be mistaken with the so-called quality of it, which I think I fell victim to a little bit because it was just so wonderfully made. I connected with it a little bit more on an experiential level, and then after thinking about it, just like it's a little messy, I think, but it's no doubt a very personal film for Andrew Haigh, so that's gonna be risky just in the fullest form. But yeah, I totally agree. It was really beautiful.
I wasn't exactly sure because, like I've said in our previous episodes, I'm paying a little bit more attention to our introductions here. And when Adam first pops up on the screen, we had just gotten almost like a landscape of the city and some pretty colors and people's and actors' names were popping up on the screen. And then Adam was like fading in the top left corner. And it was just like, what is this? Like almost like Saw kind of transition. But then really after that, they were pretty good. Started paying attention to him.
That's good. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
All right, man. Well, thank you for watching this movie with me, and thank you for talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess for me?
I do have a budget guess.
I guess so.
Not sure if I'm completely off, but I'm giving it 20 million. I feel like that's a little high because I was playing with 15, but 15 felt a little low, so I'm going with 20.
Well, when I Google it, Google's suggestive AI tells me that this movie cost about $350 million, which is obviously incorrect. I would guess probably close to 20 million too, yeah. 15 to 20. But inconclusive. It went on to make $16.6 million. So
Did this have a theatrical release?
it looks like it had a very limited release in the United States. And according to Letterboxd, with 325,000 people, obviously none of them went to go see the movie in the theater.
Yep.
Very popular, though, for kind of a low-key film. I feel like this was one of the big indie films of the year. They're giving it a 4.0.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. That's a very high appraisal. What would you give it?
I give it a 2-ish. That's what I wrote down, 2-ish. I hadn't decided between a 2 or a 2.5. Definitely not a 3.
Yeah, I was bouncing between 2.5 and 3, and I can't justify a 3 in my head with its incoherence.
Yeah, I definitely have to rewatch to give it a proper score now that I know what I'm supposed to know.
Is there an argument there that Adam is alive? I fail to see it.
Yeah, I don't think so, especially how when the movie ends, we're floating off into stars and space. I don't know where we're floating onto, but it's kind of getting darker and flickering lights. So Adam's not alive, in my opinion.
Was there a element of we're all stardust there at the very end?
That's the vibe it gave me for sure. But maybe that was just me thinking that.
That's cool. That's fine. Yeah, man. Well, thank you for watching this movie with me, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of The Filmsteins. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Remember, we post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday over on patreon.com/Filmsteins, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify. Come subscribe. Come request a movie. Come right in, please. We appreciate all the support. Go support our supporters. Thank you guys. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Filmsteins. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives in the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon, at patreon.com/Filmsteins, and follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is The Filmsteins, signing off.
That was a good one.